Is the October 2025 meeting of the Executive Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Environment. I'm Councillor Richard Sylvester, the Executive Cabinet Member, and I'd like to welcome councillors and officers of Bolton Council to this meeting, and to members of the public if you're watching the recorded version on the Bolton Council YouTube channel. Item 1 on the agenda is the monitoring of Executive Cabinet Member decisions, and this report was sent out by email prior to this meeting. Have any members on the call any questions or comments on the monitoring report? Please indicate now or shout out if you do. And if not, the recommendation is for me to note the report, which I do. So the monitoring report is noted. We go to item 2 on the agenda, which is the Bolton Climate Change Strategy Annual Report 2024-2025. And we'll go over to our officer, Nicola Farrell, who will take us through this Climate Change Strategy Annual Report.
Thank you, Councillor. So the Bolton Climate Change Strategy was adopted in 2021, and that contained a commitment to do an annual report on progress. So this report is the 3rd annual report, and it covers the period April 24 to the end of March 2025. It's designed to be a public-facing document to highlight some of the progress that's been made on climate change, and after this meeting, it will be uploaded to the website. So members will obviously have had the opportunity to read this report, but just by way of a quick overview, in relation to the headline objective of the strategy for Bolton Council's operation to be net zero, the council's greenhouse gas emissions have reduced by 38% since 2019. So whilst that's positive, there's still a significant challenge to meet this target. Again, this isn't unique to Bolton, but it's mirrored across the country and just highlights that need for a consistent approach, especially in regards to levering in additional funding. So the report itself includes progress and achievements under each pillar of the environment strategy, the climate change strategy. And key projects to highlight include the Bolton Heat Network project, some of the funding that's being given to cleaner and greener projects through Bolton's fund, some of our tree planting activity and natural environment projects, some of the energy efficiency schemes, and some of our community projects such as the food waste study and the Eco Festival at St Catherine's. Just a point to note is the fact that it also includes a delivery plan, which gives an update on all the key performance indicators, and also a revision to some of these indicators. That is due to changes in national policy, and it's also to bring the report in line with the 2nd Greater Manchester Environment Plan. So there's no options associated with this report, as it's primarily a performance report, but the Executive Cabinet Member is asked to note the report and to revise the approved indicators. Thank you.
Okay, Nicola, are you able to take any questions or comments from members on the call? I'll open this up to questions and comments. And Councillor Hewitt has indicated, so I'll go over to Councillor Hewitt.
Hi there, thanks for the presentation, Nicola. I just wanted to ask, can you say how much the commitment to net zero by 2023 and 2025 will cost the council?
In terms of commitment, I mean, there's no budget associated with climate change, and any sort of projects that would be taken forward would be done on a sort of business case, individual project by project basis. So there's currently no cost indicated that can be sort of attributed by a year. It'd have to be done on a project by project basis. So I can't really give you that information.
So we can't get a particular breakdown. You see, the thing I'm thinking about is sort of having project by project and then sort of knowing that it's been delivered, you see. Otherwise the KPI is perhaps useless.
Yeah, I mean, this project, the strategy itself isn't just for the council. So a lot of the projects are delivered by our partners as well. As you might be aware, the climate change strategy was approved by the Vision Board as well. So in terms of different projects, I think the performance is trying to show what's been achieved over the past year, but they're not perhaps broke. It's not quite as easy to break down in terms of cost because it depends on who has funded those different activities. But as I said, we don't have a climate change budget at the council itself, so it isn't something I can just read off, if you will.
I mean, if I may, I'm just saying because we found efficiencies already since 2019. The 28,335 tons sort of down from that, and that's great. But I'm worried that the report on the projections page on page 9 seems to indicate that it's going to be more expensive for sort of diminishing returns to sort of if we just keep straight to that particular KPI.
I'm not sure quite what you're referring to in terms of expensive. Could you just elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, sure. So if on page 9, if you look at the report, it sort of says that the scale of the challenge means that we need to start to see much greater cuts to emissions. Well, that seems to indicate that the indicative pathway that's shown there, it's a greater challenge to cut from what we've already cut. So I'm worried that because we've not got a cost breakdown, that we don't know how much it's going. Why would we commit to a strategy that is uncosted? A big organisation wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your point there. No, I think in terms of costing, any individual projects would have to be costed, and a lot of that would have to be brought in by additional funding. And as I said, it would have to be an additional business case. So I think what the report is trying to show you is that we can see what's happened since 2019 in terms of the emissions that have been saved, and we can see if we carried on the same line, we would be, away from net zero by 2030, but we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years in terms of changes in government policy and what have you. But any projects that had a cost would obviously go through the council's normal business planning process and would be allocated on a business case by business case reason. So there'd be no escalating costs in terms of any of these different projects. They would be taken forward at that, through the appropriate processes. So I think what I'm trying to highlight in the report is that there is still a challenge, and that's not unique to Bolton. That's something, everyone is facing in terms of some of these big cuts, but we don't know what's around the corner in terms of what might change in the landscape that would affect the emissions reductions.
I mean, I'm thank you for your answers. I'm just sort of part of the report talks about the heat network and sort of like that capital investment over that 40-year period, sort of maybe producing I think it was around 2,302 tons per year if you sort of averaged it out over that life project. But that seems very small compared to the 17,500 tons that we've sort of already got to cut by having this arbitrary target. It just feels dogmatic. Now I understand you're trying to do what you've been told to do, but if there's a sort of an arbitrary target there, then your hands are tied. So I'm concerned that focusing on things that are more expensive, but perhaps aren't as efficient at creating a cleaner environment.
I mean, in terms of the heat network itself, that would be, a project that would deliver significant carbon savings. Obviously, should that get to a pace of being delivered, but I don't think there's any. I think any costing would just go through the normal council's business process. So I don't think there's any concern about additional funding or additional expenses, because that would be done through the normal process and would be due to any debate as normal for any sort of these, for any of these different projects. So the declaration was made in 2018 18. You know, this is just a report on progress. So I think what it's trying to do, the strategy, is to try to pull together, and this report especially is trying to just pull together all that work that's been done and try and highlight some of the good work done by our community as well. But obviously we have a target that we are aspiring to meet, and that is trying to guide our progress on climate change. But we're not committed to any additional funding or anything, because as I said, they will be done as an individual project by project basis and would be reviewed, you know, as all council projects are reviewed. So I don't think there's any need for concern.
Sure.
I can allay your fears.
And
I
the
mean, I
heat
am
net.
concerned.
Well, I'll come in. I'm the cabinet member.
Please.
The heat network. You say there's going to be a capital cost, Councillor Hewitt, but there's no capital cost. It's not costing the council anything. I don't know where you've seen that in the report.
No, but it's a government grant funded scheme.
Sure.
So there is there is a general taxation cost there.
And it was allocated under the previous Conservative government.
Yes.
So that's not a cost to the council. And when you look at the projection, it would deliver 1,113,000 less tonnes of carbon dioxide, the equivalent of 259,613 petrol vehicles taken off the streets of the borough. Now, isn't that good, or do you not? Or do you think that's that?
But that
what do you think of that?
Executive cabinet member, that is only if the heat network is expanded beyond the initial town centre.
Sure. So if we look at the town centre, that's 92,100 tonnes of carbon dioxide out
Mm.
reduced. So out of the equation. Do you not think that's good?
That's from a grant of £10 million.
Do you not think that's good?
But is that from a grant of 10 million?
That's from government funding. It's not from the council. Not
But
from the council. It came from the previous Conservative government. Are you criticising your government, who allocated the 11 million?
I think that there are more efficient ways that you can deliver a cleaner environment, and if you're rigidly dogmatic about it, which I think you're in danger of being a little bit, if I may say. I mean, this is sort of a point to you. I know we have the 2019 motion. It's mentioned in the overall strategy, and it's sort of been greatly inspired by the activism of the sort of the Gretas of this world, but they've since moved on to other campaigns, and we seem to have been left with an unrealistic bill. We've already dropped parts of KPIs.
I don't know what bill
in this strategy.
I don't know what bill you're talking about. What bill are you talking about? Because actually, when we invest, and Gary and Laurie, my two chief officers from neighbourhood services, are on the call. When we change the bin wagons over to more efficient bin wagons, that was a fuel saving. We changed the routes so that the bin wagons weren't doing as many routes to make it more efficient. That saved carbon emissions in this borough. Do you think that was a good thing, Councillor Hewitt?
Well, of course, we started that journey in 2019. So we got those initial carbon reduction savings off the streets, and we made a cleaner environment. So much so, as we sort of predicted at the time, we probably wouldn't need the charging metric, which has now been removed from this set of KPIs as well. I think that you're risking sort of being a bit slavish to this one particular KPI, and if it's not sort of realistic and we don't think we'll get it, then perhaps it's not valuable to have. So I mean, would you consider maybe taking the report away, deferring it?
This isn't actually a report. It's an update. It's an update.
Yeah, but it's about changing. There is a change to the KPIs.
It's a performance update.
Yeah, but there is a change to the KPIs, though, isn't there? So would you consider thinking about the overall KPIs?
I'm happy with the present strategy.
So you don't want to defer and think about how much that would cost?
I want to get to net zero as quickly as possible.
Without any kind of regard for how much it might cost, or
there's no cost in this report, in this performance update. it doesn't show any costings in this performance update, does it? If you can find them,
No, it
please
doesn't.
tell me.
And
Well,
that's worrying.
there you go.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't. So I'm happy with the present KPIs, and I'll stick to them because I do want to get to net zero. Do you wish to get to net zero, Councillor Hewitt?
I think we all want a cleaner environment, and you know, when net zero comes about, then
we all
perhaps
want a cleaner environment. Do you want to get to net?
Well, you've asked me a question, so let me answer.
You want to get to net zero?
Yeah, I mean, when net zero happens, it can happen at a pace that is efficient and pragmatic and can be delivered without undue pain
that's what we're doing.
People to pay for it,
and that's entirely what we're doing, and we're not doing anything as what you've just indicated, or plan to do anything what you've just indicated, give anybody any pain. So do you wish, let me ask you another question, do you wish the transition away from fossil fuels? Do you agree with that?
Well, I mean, if we're getting into a broader strategic strategy, even your environment secretary is considering reopening, and I've said in council chamber that, you know, we should have reopening of oil and gas reserves in the North Sea. If you don't think that, that's worrying, because, you know, energy is more expensive than ever, and it makes it harder and harder for local people, and harder for councils to manage their revenue budgets when they have escalating costs. You don't seem to think that cost matters. You keep saying there is no cost implication. Well, there's obviously a cost implication, the executive cabinet member. You just don't seem to want to acknowledge it. I mean, can I call this in? Sorry, may I ask, can this go to scrutiny if you don't want to defer it for a later date? Can I ask that of Democratic Services?
Well, you can have an item at scrutiny on the climate change strategy. That could be part of the work programme at any time. Any member can request that. I don't know if that has been requested for the work programme.
But not this amendment to the KPIs that you're going to approve tonight.
Well, I'm not approving anything. I'm noting, as far as I understand, that
there's a part of the recommendations approving the revised performance indicators.
Okay, yeah, I've just read.
So you are approving something, exec. You must know that.
I'm happy to do that. Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
So, as I say, a question to Democratic Services: Can scrutiny take a look at the formulation of the KPIs as they currently stand in the revised, from the ones that have been dropped down to the.
If an executive member makes a decision on something, then that can be called in.
Well, it can only be called in if it's outside of the already set policy, and if it's outside of the financial budget set by the council. And this wouldn't be outside of either of those criteria, as far as I understand it. The policy was already set by council to get to net zero by 2030, and there's nothing in these performance indicators which would indicate that we're outside of the agreed finances of the council. So as far as I'm concerned, it wouldn't be able to be called in, but your group or anybody else would be able to have a item at scrutiny as part of the work programme.
So, I would like scrutiny to be able to call this in.
Sure. So
if you're making a decision, which you now realise you're making a decision to approve the changes, perhaps we should, have scrutiny have a look at it.
I'm perfectly fine about that. And Nicola, do you want to just talk again about the revisions to the KPIs? Is there a financial cost as to what Councillor Hewitt is alluding to?
No, I can talk about the KPIs. That's absolutely fine. Yeah. So They have, so there was 32, they've been revised down to 18, but some of them have just been merged together, as you can see from the appendix there. So it's not a case of just getting rid of ones we don't like, it's more about trying to align some because some were repeated. And also, so some of them, I think a few were about report, the report was obviously written in 2021. You know, things have moved on since there on a national scale. So it's just trying to ease that reporting and to make them more applicable to sort of something that's taken place 3 years later. And that was done in consultation with the other vision partners as well. So it's not something that we've just done, you know, by ourselves as a council. In terms of additional cost, as I said before, there isn't any additional cost with this. You know, this is just a performance report, and any projects would be taken through on a case-by-case basis. You know, it's a headline objective of the strategies to get to net zero, and a lot of the initiatives that are included in there are projects that just contribute towards that original target. So we're not being held to account. We're just trying to set a pathway, and all these different projects are part of the overall whole about trying to reduce carbon emissions, but they also have other benefits as well. You know, such as some of the things around the Bolton businesses that contribute to the climate change target. That is also helping the businesses be more environmentally friendly. It's helping them save their money. It's helping them, you know, work with current and changing legislation. And, you know, so that I think there is no additional cost with this report and any of the proposals within it.
Councillor Hanif Ali has indicated as well.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
All right. Sorry, my camera won't show me for some reason. Probably a good thing. Yeah, it just feels like this is just going to delay things. And it reminds me of the meeting that we had about the heat pumps, and that project, which is 10 million or something, the government going to grant us.
Yeah, the heat network, yeah.
And again, you know, Councillor Cox called it into scrutiny, and we even explained that that delay could cause us to lose that funding. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, you know, what's the problem with this? It's not going to cause Bolton Council extra funding loss in any way, and it's going to help us to get to net zero. And it just seems like you want to delay that, you know, at any cost. Just doesn't make sense.
All right, thanks for those comments. Nicola, it'd be very helpful if you went through these changes to the KPIs so that we know exactly, all members on the call know exactly what these changes are.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Especially if you've said they've been agreed by our strategic partners as well.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know if you've got access to the report, but it's basically on page 25. It's the reviewed ones.
Sure.
So, okay. So in the original climate change strategy, as I said, there was 32. So one indicator that has been removed is that 65% of colleagues agree that action's been taken. So that's been removed because it's not really a key performance indicator, and that survey doesn't take place every year. So that's the rationale for that one.
So one KPI has been removed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
nothing's been added there. One's been removed.
One's removed, yes.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Hewitt, or would you like to see it back?
I think if you're asking me, Executive, I mean, I've read Appendix A, I've read Appendix B, which I think you're referring to, Nicola. So
yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah. I think my problem with the revised new strategy is it's pretty devoted to KPI 1 and 2, and then from there everything else follows. So KPI 1 and 2, just to remind you, executive member, I can see you looking for it, is the net zero by 2050 and net zero by 2030. So
am I revising that, Nicola? KPI 1 and 2.
So KPI it's just been renamed to be number 1, but that has always been the headline objective of the indicators of the strategy. So that's never changed. It's just that it's just been included as a KPI rather than it just being a headline indicator. So it's just been renamed. That's always been in there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's no change there.
No,
It's not really a revision.
Changed its number, I suppose.
Yeah, it's just changed the number and its name.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else on page 25?
Well,
with changes.
Oh.
Do you want me to? I mean, I can go through them.
Carry on.
Do you want me to actually go through them? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other one that's been deleted is 50% of Bolton Youth Voice agree that Bolton is responding proactively to the climate emergency, and that's just been deleted because that survey doesn't take place annually. So that's the reason for that.
So that's another one which has been removed. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 2 that's been removed. Yeah.
Okay. Number 4 has just been replaced. So I don't know if you want to do that one, but it's just about. It was businesses that have responded to a climate change survey, but that was only a very small sample. There was a few businesses that did that, so that's been changed to be all businesses through the Bolton, the GM. Can't remember the name of it. Sorry. Greater Manchester.
We're consulting with more businesses. I'd say that's a good one.
Yeah,
I'd say that's a good move. That we're consulting with more businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then number 6 has been removed as well because that's the total full-time equivalent role who have environmental responsibilities. So the governance has already been set up and it's working well. So didn't see a need to try and get that information of how many full-time equivalents. It just wasn't seen as a particularly good indicator, so that was removed.
Okay.
Number 7 is also removed because it was pathway for zero carbon new development and new housing by 2028. Well, Places for Everyone already has that policy, so essentially that's completed. So that's been removed.
Okay.
Number 9 is monitor and report the health outcomes of improved living environments, but that's just been combined with number 11 because it was essentially saying the same thing. Sorry. Carbon neutral electricity by 2022 has been removed as well because it's been considered, but this is something that it does require some funding, and we haven't got the funding in place to pursue that. Okay. Number 20 is around zero waste to landfill, and that's just been combined with KPI 19 because that also includes a waste target. I don't know if you want to come in, Councillor Hewitt, before I keep going through.
Sure. Councillor Hewitt. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and thank you, Nicola, for reading out the lists. And just to go back to the point that you just made, we've already removed one target there because we don't have the funds available. And this is a consideration I'm asking councillors to make at scrutiny around the overall strategy 1 and 2, which is now in the revised report. And it's as simple as that. If the executive cabinet member doesn't want to do that, or I can't have that done by democratic services, we have to have democratic services to sort of suggest that. Then
I mean, it's not for me to place items on a scrutiny committee. That's not my role. It's the role of members of a scrutiny committee to ask for an item to go on the work programme, which was at the start of the municipal year. But that's entirely up to the chair whether she wishes to add anything further onto the work programme during the municipal year. I don't have a problem with the climate change strategy being discussed at scrutiny, but it's not my role to be placing it on a work programme because I'm not a member of that committee.
If you look at the constitution, any member of a scrutiny committee, even though the work programme is agreed at the start of the municipal year, can ask for an item to go on and give a reason for that.
Yeah.
Well, I think, sorry, if I may come in, Chair, then in response to yourself, Ian, then this amendment and consideration on this revised KPI would seem like to call it what you will, call it in or bring up this item of change and effectively discuss whether it's still a relevant KPI at scrutiny from this meeting to go up there.
If
I think
that's
I think
Yeah.
after the executive members made a decision, Councillor Hewitt, you'll have to decide what you're going to do. In terms of calling, if you did that, we'll have a discussion with the borough solicitor in the morning, I think, to look at that, bearing in mind what Councillor Sylvester said as well. So.
Sure, because there's no change in policy here. The policy of the council, it was agreed at full council to get to net zero by 2030, and there's no financial implication in this report or the changes to the KPI. In fact, I've written them down. 5 have been removed, 2 have been merged, 1 renamed, and 1 an increased consultation with businesses, which I think is a good thing. Councillor Hewitt?
Thank you, Executive Cabinet Member. I mean, I'm happy to take away what Ian said around discussing with the borough solicitor after. I think it's clear that you're happy to make a decision to revise it. I'm not going to argue the toss on that. And it's subject to the borough solicitor ruling whether or not it can or can't go up to scrutiny. Happy to take that away just around the strategic aspect of whether it should stay. An overall or for scrutiny to consider it and to consider the cost implications of it. So I mean, and just going right back to the very beginning, that there was a previous Conservative administration that initiated these carbon cutting exercises to make our air cleaner. It's not something that we don't want. It's just around the pragmatism and around the sort of how expensive these sorts of things will be. But I'll leave it at that, and I'm happy to speak to the.
It's not just for clean air, Councillor Hewitt. This is to cut our carbon emissions. As part of the Paris Agreement in 2015, was signed by the Conservative government in 2015 to limit global temperature rises to no more than 2 degrees C, and to try and make sure that really the limit is 1.5 degrees C. That's what this is about. And every local authority in the country, every government department has a commitment to get to net zero. That is what the government at the time and this present government is committed to transition away from fossil fuels. That's what this is all about. And that's what our climate change strategy is about. You were a member of the administration when it was brought in. You agreed with it at the time. It's entirely up to you and your group whether you still agree with it or not, but I do agree with it. So I am, after all of this discussion, it can go to scrutiny if you wish to discuss it. I don't have any problem with that. We can look at all these KPIs and what Nicola has just spoken about, some being removed, renamed, an increased consultation with business, etc. I don't have any problem with any of that.
Just to say that, I suppose there's 2 routes. There's one, if Councillor Sylvester makes the decision in a minute, that Councillor Hewitt can call it in. The other option is that Councillor Warren is chair of Place Scrutiny Committee. One of the Conservative members asks for an item on this to come to a future meeting. So I think there's those 2 routes.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian. And yeah, I think no one government, no one parliament binds another, as the Executive Cabinet member will know. And you look at the facts on the ground, and you take an evidence-based approach each time. So you can decide to do something, and if it's needed, then perhaps you go forward with it. But you always take stock rather than sort of being dogmatic about something.
Well, we go back to the Paris Climate Agreement of 2015. No government has pulled out of that. I'm talking about UK governments. I know across the Atlantic, the American administration has pulled out of it. Now, that's entirely up to them. but no UK government has pulled out of the Paris climate change agreement, and that's what we're committed to. That's what this council is committed to get to net zero as quickly as possible as we can. We set a goal of 2030. It's good to be ambitious. We will see by 2030 if we have reached that target, and it's my role to try and make sure that we do get to that target by 2030. And one of the things which I would like to see is a heat network, which will significantly decrease carbon emissions in the borough. So I am going to note the contents of the climate change strategy annual report 2024-2025. And as I've said, I don't have any problem with the KPI revisions, so I approved the revised performance indicators for 2025 and 2026. Okay, so I'll leave it to you, Councillor Hewitt, if you wish to call this in. I don't think you will be able to do, because it's, like I say, it's not out of policy, not changing our policy, and it's not outside the agreed budget of the council. But if you want to take it to scrutiny, you can ask for it to go to scrutiny. I don't have a problem. I've said any member of that committee can ask for the climate change strategy to go on the work programme. If it's that route, then fantastic. I'm happy to be at the scrutiny committee.
Yeah, I'd like to call that into scrutiny, please, Ian, and we'll explore if it can't be done that way, then via the chairman. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So that's item one, item two, sorry. So we go on to item 3. Now this is the emptying of skips services, and we're going to go over to our head of service, which is Laurie Hunter, who's been waiting very patiently.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is essentially a reprocurement exercise. We're not changing anything to do with the services that we're offering at this point in time. What we are doing is providing a little bit of provision for our pavement sweepers. So those are the small sweepers that you see in the town centre quite often, and in pavements, which complements the road sweeper that we use. Because the size and because the distances they would have to travel to the disposal site, the purpose of having a skip procurement is to provide, primarily to provide nearby skips for those vehicles. There are a few dotted around in some parks that are used, and there are also 3 within the Wellington Street Depot. One of those in particular is used to sort of boost our recycling rate for Bolton Council, because what you could do with the contents of skips is you could use them as recovery recycling material for land restoration. So it helps us to kind of recycle as much as possible from the materials that are collected within pavement sweepers. So as I've said, we've got 3 within Wellington Yard Depot. We've got a few in parks. We also use skips on an ad hoc basis throughout the year. So leaf fall, for example, which we are just about to start. We do need to place larger skips in ad hoc locations across the borough so that we can collect leaves that fall all at once within the same time of year, and we need our those skips nearby so that we can manage that waste effectively. Again, some of that we transfer load into the depot, some of that we take to the disposal site. It's also worth noting that there are a couple in some of our parks, a couple of our major parks, that enables us to manage high footfall areas, and some of our staff who are based nearby. So it enables us to operate the service a little bit more efficiently, because those operatives perhaps don't have the resources, i.e. enough vehicles to go back and forth to the disposal site. We're not looking to increase the budget for this. We'll be working within the current budget envelope for this service. And it is purely a permission exercise to reprocure and to get value for money out of the market. So I'll just read through the recommendations to refresh our memories. So the recommendations are for the Executive Cabinet Member to authorise the Director of Place to carry out and complete the necessary procurement activity as detailed in this report, to appoint a new supplier to empty skips used to support pavement sweeper services, and to authorise the Borough Solicitor to carry out legal formalities in relation to this procurement exercise, and to authorise the Borough Treasurer to carry out all financial formalities in relation to this procurement exercise.
Okay, thank you, Laurie. So I'll open this report up to any questions or comments for Laurie. I don't think anybody is indicating. I do note in the climate change section that it will help reduce our carbon footprint as well, which is good. And if there's no questions or comments, I'll authorise the Director of Place to carry out and complete the necessary procurement activity as detailed in this report, to appoint a new supplier to empty skips used to support pavement sweeper services. I also authorise the Borough Solicitor to carry out legal formalities in relation to this procurement exercise, and I authorise the Borough Treasurer to carry out all financial formalities in relation to this procurement exercise. So all of that has been authorised, Laurie. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. Appreciated.
Sure. So we go on to item 4 on the agenda now. This is the supply and delivery of plastic wheeled bins. We go over to our service manager, Tom Alberts.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Given a brief overview this evening on the supply and delivery of plastic bins, due to the existing contract expiring on the 31st of December 2025 and having reached the maximum term of the contract, purchasing a plastic wheel bins is standard within waste. The Simple Recycling Reforms and the Environment Act requires all local authorities to provide households with separate collections for recyclable waste. We do this via the procurement of plastic wheel bins, which helps us comply with the legislation, supports residents in segregating the waste, and from an operational perspective, it helps us deliver safe and reliable scheduled collections. Due to the potential costs involved with the procurement of this resource, the service must conduct a full procurement exercise as opposed to procuring in 3 quotes. And we are proposing to do this via a recognised YPO framework with a term of 3 years, plus the option to extend an additional 12-month period, which is dependent on price and performance. The service isn't expected to spend anything over and above what we within existing budgets. And yeah, the Executive Cabinet members recommended to authorise the Director of Place to procure and appoint successful contractors to supply and deliver plastic wheel bins in accordance with the Council's requirements, conduct and contract standing orders, authorise the Borough Solicitor to carry out all necessary legal formalities, and authorise the Borough Treasurer to carry out all necessary financial formalities. Any questions?
So any questions for Tom on this report? Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Executive Cabinet Member. Excuse me. Just on 4.1.2, that's just for replacement, isn't it? That cost, is that what that seems to indicate in the table?
Yes. 4.1.2, that's the delivery and administration costs that we charge for deliveries to residential properties.
Okay, but it wouldn't include any new rollouts or anything like that, a new stock or anything like that, just to clarify.
No, this is purely for the delivery and administration of that order or a given order.
But for replacing one, basically, if somebody wanted.
Replacing one, yeah.
Fair enough, understood. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for clarification? If not, then I'll authorise the Director of Place to procure and appoint a successful contractor to supply and deliver plastic wheel bins in accordance with the Council's requirements and contract standing orders. I authorise the Borough Solicitor to carry out all legal formalities, and I also authorise the Borough Treasurer to carry out all financial formalities. So all of that is authorised, Tom.
Thank you.
And you have another report for us, which is item 5, the procurement of 660 litre and 1,100 litre steeled wheel bins. So back over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to before, this is due to a contract expiring on the 19th of December 2025 and having reached the maximum term of the contract. The purchase and use of steel wheel bins supports Council's commercial waste service, which currently consists of around about 1,400 businesses, of which a total of just short of 1,700 steel wheel bins are in active circulation. In addition, and we have steel wheel bins that support the delivery of residential collections at various communal properties, with several hundred in active circulation across the borough currently. Being steel bins, and due to the nature of bin collections, we do have to replace or repair a number of them each year, with approximately 300 being replaced or repaired across the borough in the 24-25 period. You may wonder why we choose large steel bins over plastic counterparts, and there's a number of reasons for this. One, they're more durable and robust. Two, they're much easier to repair. So, for instance, we can completely replace the bottom. We can weld pretty much anywhere on the bin, and it all just helps to a longer lifespan, better protection against rodents. And they're not as easy to set on fire. So if we have a plastic bin, very, very easy to set on fire. And once there's a fire in that bin, the bin is gone. The advantage of a steel bin is the lid is effectively double skimmed. So if there's a fire in the bin, the actual bottom of the lid, or one of the bottom layer of the lid's designed to drop into the bin and hopefully smother the fire. Similar to the procurement of plastic wheel bins, we purchase steel bins in various colours so we can ensure compliance with the Simpler Recycling Scheme and the Environment Act. They help business and communal properties to segregate the waste and helps the service to deliver safe and reliable scheduled collections. Likewise, due to potential costs involved in the procurement of this resource, the service must conduct a full procurement exercise, and it doesn't. We intend to do that with the YPO framework, and it doesn't exceed service budgets. The Executive Cabinet members invited to consider approving this report so we can start the procurement process. And just to recap on what the recommendations are, is to authorise the Director of Place to procure and appoint a successful contractor to supply and deliver steel wheel bins in accordance with the Council's requirements and contract standing orders. Authorise the Borough Solicitor to carry out all legal formalities, and authorise the Borough Treasurer to carry out all necessary financial formalities. Any questions?
So any questions for Tom on this report from anyone on the call? No. Obviously it's necessary, otherwise the service will grind to a halt if this doesn't occur. The recommendations on the report are exactly the same as the previous ones for the plastic wheel bin, so I authorise all of those recommendations which you've read out, Tom.
Thank you, Chair.
So that's all authorised. So it brings us to the end of the meeting. So can I thank officers for the reports and reporting back to us this evening on them. Thank you to members on the call as well. We've had a lively debate. I'm sure we'll have a lively debate when the climate change strategy eventually makes it to the scrutiny committee. But for everybody on the call and for those at home, thank you very much. See you at the next one.
Okay,
Thank you,
I'll
Chair.
stop the
Thank you,
recording.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair.